Hey there, you lemons. In this example here, I'm going to be doing example 3 and example 4 together. So here we go. We're using index law where you have a negative and you can do the reverse or the reciprocal. So a to the power of negative m is equal to 1 over a to the power of m. In this case here, I can say part A, where you have a to the power of negative 2. This is the same thing as writing 1 on 8 squared. Using index law number 5, I think it was, and then this now becomes 1 over 64. Okay, so I've evaluated it. B, let's do B. So part B, I've got now 1 over 2 to the power of negative 4. And another way of looking at this, okay, is you can write that half using index laws. Instead of 1 over 2 to the power of 1 on the denominator there, we can write that now as 2 to the power of negative 1, because that's the same thing as half, all to the power of negative 4. Now, why do I do that? Is because I know using rule number 3, I can multiply the two powers there. So negative 1 times negative 4 gives me now 2 to the power of positive 4. And we know that 2 to the power of 4 is 16. Okay, let's have a look at C. C, we've got 3/4 to the power of negative 3. So unfortunately, in this example, we couldn't do what we did with B. So we will use one of the rules where you can multiply the powers. So right now it's 3 to the power of 1, and that's 4 to the power of 1. And I'm going to multiply the powers negative 3 to both of those powers there. So writing them individually, I will now have 3 to the power of negative 3 all over 4 to the power of negative 3. Okay, so I'm just going to change that to blue and just make it a bit smaller. There we go. So from here, how do we evaluate them? So again, you can write them out individually. 3 to the power of negative 3 is the same thing as writing 1 over 3 cubed. And remember, there's that symbol here, which means divide. So I'm going to divide that with 4 to the power of negative 3, which is the same thing as writing 1 over 4 cubed. Now we know that when we divide, we are multiplying by its reciprocal, so it becomes 1 over 3 cubed is actually 27 times, and the reciprocal becomes 4 cubed over 1, and keep in mind that 4 cubed is the same thing as 64. So 64 over 1, and here we go, we've got 64 over 27, and I wonder if there's a number that we can simplify there. There might not be. 9, no, I think that might be it. Maybe that's as small as possible. Nothing that's coming to mind at the moment, but who knows, maybe there is. All right, moving on to example 4. Looking at example 4, very similar to prior to before, we are now combining all the rules together. So here I can say we can multiply the powers together, so 5 times the 3, and that gives me a to the power of 15. Part B, we can see that there's multiple fractions of negative and multiple powers there. I'd like to change that 1 over 2 to actually be the same thing as writing 2 to the power of negative 1. And that's all to the power of negative 3, and then all of that to the power of 2. So let's work this out. This now becomes 2 to the power of 3 all squared, which is the same thing as writing 2 to the power of 3 times 2, and that now becomes 2 to the power of 6. Okay, I might just make this a bit smaller. Whoops, wrong button. Here we go. Let's make that a bit smaller. There we go. So that would be part B, and then now moving on to part C, we have b cubed. So that means I'm multiplying the powers. 3 times 2 multiplied to, again, b to the power of 2 times negative 1. So working from here, this is b to the power of 6 times b to the power of negative 2. And remember, when you're multiplying with the same bases, you can then add the powers. So b to the power of 6 plus a negative 2, which is the same thing as saying 6 minus 2, which becomes b to the power of 4. Okay, so that's how you would do example 3 and example 4.